بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون صدق الله العظيم. فقال النبي الكريم صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم إن لله عتقاء في كل يوم وليلة يعني في رمضان لكل عبد منهم دعوة مستجابة أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام أما بعد. Before I begin, I'm going to ask everybody to fill in every spot in front of you that you see, because right now, mashallah, it's already full, almost, and we're going to have a lot more people still coming. So make sure throughout the salah, if you see open space, you're filling it in. I begin by asking you to reflect on a time in your own life where perhaps your teacher, your boss, or a parent even asked you to do something extra, something a little more than what you normally do. If it's for your teacher, an extra assignment. If it's your parents, extra chores. If it's your boss, maybe some extra work to take care of, helping somebody else out. When you finish that task and you completed doing that little extra, think about how they responded to you. Most of the time, people are not interested in giving appreciation for the extra things that we do. More often than not, you'll probably get a response. You do some extra, people will say, okay. Your boss will say, well, you have a job. That's what you're paid for. Your parents will say, you have a roof over your head, don't you? You have food in your belly every night, don't you? Why do I need to thank you? Why do I need to do this or show appreciation? But what's interesting is that people at their core are unfortunately misaligned with this concept of appreciation. And it becomes very difficult for us to understand what true appreciation looks like. Because when you think about, well, okay, am I going to receive any kind of recognition? Am I going to receive anything extra for this? More often than not, people do not want to give you more for things that you do that are extra. But this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us what appreciation truly is. Because as we sit here, most, if not all of us, hungry and thirsty, sitting here having eaten last 7-8 hours ago, and not eating for another 6 hours. As we sit here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing for us what we can't even begin to imagine. And I'm reminded of a verse in Surah An-Nisa where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ فِي الدَّرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ وَلَن تَجِدَ لَهُمْ نَصِيرًا. He starts off here by saying that the hypocrites are in the lowest place of hellfire, and they will never find for them any helper. What do hypocrites have to do with appreciation? Well, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ تَابَوا وَاتَّابُوا وَأَصْلَحُوا وَاعْتَصَمُوا بِاللَّهِ وَأَخْلَصُوا دِينَهُمْ لِلَّهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then makes a istithna, as we say. He makes a qualification. Except those who seek repentance, who fix their deeds. They were doing wrong before and now they decided, I'm going to go on the right path. And they stay connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they focus their deen for Him alone. فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Then these people will be considered believers. وَسَوْفَ يُؤْتِ اللَّهُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. And Allah will give all the believers a great reward. So now it starts to add up a little more. It starts to make a little more sense. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that if you are a believer, I will give you a great reward. But that's not the point here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something very powerful. مَا يَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِكُمْ إِن شَكَرْتُمْ وَآمَنْتُمْ. What would Allah do with punishing you? It's really a rhetorical question, which is, why would Allah punish you if you were grateful and you believed in Him? Very simple premise. Many people think that Allah created us and it's just so we can do what He wants, and if we don't, He'll punish us. This is most often how people look at it. You have to do this because otherwise if you don't, Allah will punish you. You don't do this because if you do, then Allah will punish you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is flipping this narrative with His words. Why would Allah punish you if you do what you're supposed to do? Why? Allah has no need for punishment for you. Allah does not want to punish people. مَا يَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِكُمْ إِن شَكَرْتُمْ وَآمَنْتُمْ. Why? What's the need for Allah to do it? If you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're thanking Him, you're believing, why would He punish you? وَكَانَ اللَّهُ شَاكِرًا عَلِيمًا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ever grateful, well knowing of what you do. And this now is something so powerful because you and I, again, when we do something or someone does something for us, we show gratitude because we're human beings. We are people who don't have any true level of power or authority. Whatever we might have is all just given to us in the world that we live in. But when you say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who the gratitude He's showing is not because He wants something from you, not because He needs something from you. No, Allah is showing you gratitude because He wants to show gratitude for the things that you do. Isn't that powerful? That because you are doing the right things, you're doing what you're supposed to do. The Lord of everything, the one who created everything by just saying be, and all of a sudden it came to be, He is saying, I am grateful for the things that you do. Allahu Akbar. If I'm grateful, it's because I'm a human being, and yeah, I may need to have some benefit from you in the future, and I want to show that gratitude so you don't think I'm a jerk or I'm mean. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why does He need to show gratitude? But He Himself is saying, Inna Allah shakiran alim. Allah is ever grateful, and He knows exactly what it is that you're doing for Him. Those hidden things that we do, the thing that's only between us and Allah, the thing nobody else knows about, Allah knows about. And He is grateful for it, and He gives us a reward for it. Most people carry this fatalistic mindset, though, that, you know what, I'm going to get punished, so why worry about it? But these verses, I'm telling you, they flip that narrative on its head. This life is not about punishment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even says, Inna rahmati ghalabat ghadabi. My mercy overcomes my wrath. It overcomes my wrath, He says. What that means is that if you're in a situation where it's a 50-50 proposition, are you going to be punished or forgiven? Do you know what's going to come over that? Allah's mercy, forgiveness. It's a beautiful thing. And when someone is doing things for you, when someone is giving you more, doing more, you then in turn want to show that gratitude as well. You want to be somebody who appreciates those favors. And beyond just the very basics of the fact that Allah is grateful, He's showing gratitude, He also gives us more. Because He could have very easily said, it's time for you to fast this 1 month. You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And that's it. But instead, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? He says, if you fast in this month, your deeds will be worth not 70 times, but even up to 700 times what they're normally worth. No, you don't just get this. You're doing what I asked you to do. No, you don't just get a little extra. You get a lot of extra. When you fast in this month of Ramadan, when you're somebody who's engaging in this month of Ramadan, doing your salah, doing your different ibadat, your worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just so you know, the gates of hellfire are closed. Some of the scholars have said if you die in the month of Ramadan, it may very well be that you cannot be punished. So another thing to add to the list. But then beyond that, He made it a month where we congregate in the masjid, where you get to see your brothers and sisters, because life gets in the way sometimes. You get busy, but this 1 month comes along and Allah puts us right back here together. And we're connected again, and we feel that again. We're in the community and we feel that brotherhood, that kinship again. Sometimes we ask ourselves, man, why wasn't I here more often? But that's not all. Because then the Prophet ﷺ told us, إِنَّ لِلَّهِ عُتَقَاءَ فِي كُلِّ يَوْمٍ وَلَيْلَةٍ يعني Ramadan. In every single night and every single day of this month of Ramadan, Allah is freeing people from hellfire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on every day is saying, such and such, no hellfire. Such and such was destined for hellfire, he will be forgiven. This person, she was supposed to have this punishment, she'll be forgiven. Every single day Allah is freeing. But that's not all either. Because then the Prophet ﷺ said, لِكُلِّ عَبْدٍ مِّنْهُمْ دَعْوَةٌ مُسْتَجَابَةٌ. For every single servant of Allah in this month, in this time, is a dua that will absolutely be answered. It is a dua that if we make it, Allah will answer it. Many of you have probably spent nights in Ramadan in previous years where perhaps there was some calamity, some difficulty. You lost your job, you were trying to find work, you were trying to get into this school or this place or this thing. You were just making dua all of Ramadan. And what happened at the end of that month after you did all these things? Inna Allah shakiran alima. Allah is grateful for what you did and you got exactly what you asked for. The thing that you wanted so badly that you were raising your hands up begging Allah for, He gave you that thing. Or if He didn't give you that thing, He gave you something better. Inna Allah shakiran alima. Allah is grateful. And He knows every little thing that you're doing. Many of us, if you've been to Hajj, you know that on the day of Arafah, when the Hujjaj go and they sit and they make dua, that there is some level of just, it's almost like a supernatural situation. Because you'll see people making dua on Arafah. Ya Allah, give me this. Ya Allah, give me this. Ya Allah, give me this. And then their phone starts buzzing. And they say, oh my God, I got the job. Oh my God, I just got this message from this person that says that they want to meet me for this. It's not a tangible thing. You can't sit there and say, oh yeah, this makes perfect sense, because it doesn't. And this month of Ramadan, this time, this is a time for that, for making these du'as. The people in our lives, our boss, our teacher, our parents, they may not show the level of appreciation that they maybe should. But never doubt that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for simply just being hungry for a little longer than normal, being thirsty for a little longer than normal, being more mindful of our actions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, take this and take this and take this, and this is extra for you, and some more extra and some more extra. And beyond that, then all of it can add up to forgiveness on the Day of Judgment. So much extra, so much additional. Maybe people in our lives don't know how to show appreciation, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for our shortcomings, and we allow us to take advantage of this month. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم لسائر المسلمين فأستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد. I'm going to ask brothers again, scoot up any space you see in front of you, just fill it in. I see a lot of space over there, up there. Fill in these spaces because there's a lot of people still coming, inshallah. As we conclude the second week of our fasting and move slowly into this third week, I want to leave you with a profound reminder of how important dua is. I mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ told us that every single servant has a absolutely answered dua in Ramadan. But even outside of this month of Ramadan, dua is something that is so powerful. It is something that Ali radiallahu anhu, there's a statement, he said, dua silahul mu'min. Dua is actually the sword of the believer, meaning it's the weapon of the believer. It's the thing that somebody can utilize in any situation when they feel unsafe, when they feel concerned, when they feel worried. If they need something, they can utilize their dua. It's that powerful. It'll give that response. But even more than that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He conveys the obligation of fasting in the month of Ramadan, within these two verses of fasting, He also adds in a very beautiful reminder. First, Allah begins, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykum siyamu kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. The verse we all know. The fasting has been prescribed on you as it was prescribed on those people before. Ayyaman ma'dudat, these specific days. So whoever is sick or is on a journey, who's traveling, then they can do it at another time. They can do it later. And those who are unable to then give a fidya, they do what they're supposed to do. Whoever does extra or additional, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is grateful for it. But then He says what Ramadan is. He specifies specifically what this month is. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. This month of Ramadan, this is the time when the Quran descended. It is a time when the Quran descended. Whoever then sees this month should fast. And whoever is sick, they can make up other days. There's ease given. But then He says something interesting. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. When my servants ask you about me, speaking to the Prophet ﷺ, but something even that each and every single one of us can take. When people ask about me, I am near. Not far. I'm not over there or here or there. I am near, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Ujibu da'wat ad-da'i idha dan. When somebody calls out to me, I respond to that call. When somebody begs me for something, I respond to that person. فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي. So then respond to me, Allah says. I'm responding to you. Respond to me. Listen to what I'm telling you to do. وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. And believe. Do what you're supposed to do. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. So that you can be rightly guided. But this time makes it very clear. In these verses of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically says, when people ask about me, I'm near. And in this month of Ramadan, what we can extrapolate, what the scholars of tafsir tell us, is that this is the month where we can get the benefit, a closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we cannot get at any other time. It is an opportunity for each and every single one of us. It is a chance for each and every single one of us. I leave you today with three things. The first being that Ramadan is ticking away. This blessed time is finishing faster than we realize. We're almost halfway through, and it feels like we just started yesterday. Almost halfway through. And yet, the time may very well come to pass. And we should all seek refuge from this. We should all do our best to avoid this. That the only benefit we get from this month of Ramadan, the only thing that we get from our fasts is hunger and thirst. The Prophet ﷺ said it may well be that somebody only gets hunger and thirst from their fasting. It's not something that we want. We need to add to our spirituality with our fasting. It needs to be something that pushes us to do a little more, a little extra. There may be times where you feel like, you know what, I should have done this or I should have done that. You may feel like you're not religious enough or you're not this or you're not that. That's irrelevant because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put each and every single one of us here. And He's given us this chance, this opportunity that He's nearby. He's willing to listen. He's willing to give what you want. So ask. So do what you need to do. Do what you're supposed to do. Do a little extra beyond that. And know that none of it will go to waste, because Allah is shakiran alima. He's grateful. And He knows exactly what you've done. Whether it's reading more Quran, whether it's spending more time in the masjid, volunteering, whether it's donating, whatever it might be, increase that. If you're somebody who comes to Salatul Jum'ah once a week, and that's the only time that you're here at the masjid, no judgment, but make sure that you're taking advantage of it. Don't have conversations. Don't bring your phone out. Make it something that actually has a meaningful impact. Find whatever thing that you can do that's extra and do that extra. Number 2, stay connected with your brothers and sisters. Stay connected with the ummah. Because the people who make you feel better about yourself, who make you feel better about yourself as a believer, who don't make you feel like you're garbage or you're trash or you're not good enough, those are the people you should spend time with. Because the others who drag you down, the others who say, why are you trying to be all religious now, Mawvi Sahib? Why are you trying to do this just because it's Ramadan? Those people are toxic. Those people are not people that you want, because on the day of judgment, you'll be standing there saying, I could have done so much more, but I let this person drag me down. I let this person bring me to a level that they were at because of their insecurities. Not because of anything to do with me, but because of their insecurities, they wanted to drag me down. And they did. Don't let that be the situation. Don't be around people who pull you down. Be around people who lift you up. People who look at you and want what's best for you, not what's best for them. And lastly, when it comes to taking advantage of the month of Ramadan, the Prophet ﷺ told us, that narration that I mentioned, every single day, every single night, Allah is freeing people from hellfire. And there is a dua for each and every single one of us that will be answered bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So make sure that you're taking advantage of every opportunity to stack up, to double up that reward. Make sure you're doing what you need to do. After Asr today is a time where dua is accepted. Maybe that's the time where your one dua will be accepted. And it'll be far better than you believed it could be, because it was done in a blessed time. On the day of Wednesday between Dhuhr and Asr, this is a time when dua is accepted. Make that dua. In the last 10 nights, Laylatul Qadr, that's a time when dua is accepted. Make those duas. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at every single opportunity that is a good opportunity. And even those that are a bad opportunity, ask Him. Because إِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. When people ask about me, I am near, He says. I respond to the call of the one who asks me. The one who puts his hand up and says, Ya Allah, I need this. No language barrier, no difference in, oh, this or that. No. The one who puts their hands up and asks, I respond, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for all of our shortcomings. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to take advantage of this month of Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to free us from the hellfire. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتوب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه يزدكم واستغفروه يغفر لكم واتقوه يجعل لكم من أمركم مخرجا وقم الصلاة. Fill in on the sides. Look to the sides first before you start new rows. Additionally, inshallah, after the announcements, we're going to have a shahada, inshallah. So please stick around. Just stay seated. And inshallah we'll have a shahada bidnillahi ta'ala.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول